With that, I recognize Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panelists, for being with us. I don't have any good Uber stories. But what I do know is that in America today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of the United States. We have a situation where the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 93%. CEOs of large corporations now earn 350 times more than their average workers. According to the Rand Corporation, not a socialist operation, over the past 50 years, $79 trillion in wealth has been redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. Today, quite unbelievably, the average American worker makes less in real inflation accounted for dollars than he or she did 52 years ago. So that's where we are right now. There are a lot of reasons for that we're not going to get into today. But one of the more important reasons why the working class in America is worse off than they were 50 years ago, despite huge increases in worker productivity, is the fact that corporate America has been waging a war against the trade union movement for decades. According to the latest Gallup poll, 70% of the American people support labor unions, and yet only 6% of private sector workers belong to one. All over the country, people want to join unions, and yet in the private sector, mere 6% are in unions. Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, I'm afraid that the bills that we are considering today would only make a bad and unfair situation even worse. These proposals would make it easier for large corporations to misclassify workers as independent contractors in order to avoid paying them decent wages and decent benefits. These bills are not about giving workers the freedom to work. These bills are about giving corporations the freedom to deny workers the right to form a union. They're about giving corporations the freedom to pay workers poverty wages and denying workers the overtime pay that they are owed. In other words, they would give corporations like Amazon, Uber, and Lyft the freedom to exploit their workforce. The reality is that the safe harbor provisions included in this legislation would give large corporations a blank check to break our nation's labor laws. A few years ago, I met with truck drivers in California who were misclassified as independent contractors. Never forget that. Big lineup of trucks near the harbor. One truck driver told me he worked 100 hours a week, and not only did he not get paid for that work week, he ended up owing the company a check. What was his crime? The trucking company forced him to lease the truck he was driving for an outrageously high fee and then fired him for speaking out against that injustice. And that's happening all over the country. At yesterday's hearing, we heard concerns from Senator Hawley about how Amazon drivers are misclassified as independent contractors and denied the right to form a union, even though they wear Amazon vests, drive Amazon vehicles, deliver Amazon packages, and have their work schedule controlled by Amazon. He was right. Instead of denying workers the right to form a union, we should make it easier for workers to organize and bargain for better wages and benefits. Virtually every major union in this country supports the PRO Act, the right for workers to join a union without being illegally attacked by their employer. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record letters opposing these bills from the AFL-CIO, the SEIU, the National Nurses Union, United, the National Employment Law Project, and others.
Without objection.
Instead of denying workers the right to decent wages, we should be raising the minimum wage to at least $17 an hour. Instead of denying health care to workers with pre-existing conditions, we should do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to all people as a human right. And if we're serious about addressing the retirement crisis, which is what we're talking about today to some degree, the way to do that is to bring back defined benefit pension plans. Now, I know that a lot of young people in the audience may not even know what a defined benefit pension plans. Guess what? Your grandparents, when they went to work, if they worked for a large company, when they retired, they had a pension plan. They knew exactly how much they were getting for the rest of their lives. According to the Congressional Research Service, in 1975, 44% of private sector workers in America had a defined benefit pension plan that guaranteed a monthly income in retirement. Today, that figure has dropped to just 9%. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we should not have millions of people reaching retirement age with nothing in the bank, worrying about how they're going to make it through their last years on earth. And that has got to change, and that is why I've introduced the Pensions for All Act this morning. This legislation would provide comprehensive retirement coverage to the more than 56 million working-class Americans who currently have no pension plan through their employer. If we can guarantee a defined benefit pension plan for members of Congress, not a bad plan, guys, we can and must provide that same level of retirement security to every worker in America. That is precisely what this legislation would do, and I am proud that it has the strong support of the UAW, the Alliance for Retired Americans, and the Association of Flight Attendants. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.